Hey kids, let's talk about the good old days growing up in Idaho. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Growing Up in Idaho, talking about the good old days. And happy Memorial Day weekend. I hope the rain and snow are not drowning out your celebrations too much. Tomorrow, we pay tribute to the great women and men who fought and died for our freedoms. It's a day that has deep meaning for some who may have lost loved ones in the fight for freedom and the ideals of the United States. And we also reverence those people. Today, I've got a great story I want to voice. It's a really good Idaho story told by a great storyteller, Sherm Williams, a man who grew up in Idaho and knows firsthand the finer things an Idaho upbringing has to offer. Storytelling is an art form, and one of the great virtues that some human beings possess. Think of all the possibilities. A great storyteller captures the essence of a moment in time, and through their words they paint a masterpiece that can then sit in the minds of other people, where it develops meaning, depending on the experiences and backgrounds of those people. Thus, every story probably has different meaning to every person. The stories in Growing Up in Idaho are intended to convey the grassroots underpinnings of a country people who understand ideals such as the value of hard work and self-reliance, the beauty of mountain valleys, and the importance of friendships and people. One of the ideals I tried to instill in my kids when they were growing up was that the essence of life is about people, not particularly about things. People are more important than fancy houses, cars, or boats, or even electronic devices. And we feel happier when we take opportunities to help other people in some way. Perhaps collectively, our lives would feel more complete if we worked each day to find ways to bridge the many divides with others that we create. If there was some way we could look past those things that divide us as humans, we would find a whole new world opened up to us, of culture and understanding that perhaps we hadn't seen before. And then we could truly follow that admonition of a great teacher who once said, "Love one another." But I digress. Sherm Williams shared a great story on Facebook, and I would like to pass that story along on today's Sunday podcast. The story is titled, "Tough Guys Don't Cry." It's the weekend most folks have been looking forward to, from the first snowflake that falls in the late fall. Memorial Day. A weekend for camping, getting back to nature and the outdoors. Yet this year I find myself focused on my late parents, where it should be on this and every Memorial Day. Today I will be recalling my time spent with my father in Salmon, Idaho, during my high school years. My dad and I lived on Sal Mountain, south of Salmon, Idaho. Mom and Dad had separated, and Mom moved away, taking my little brother Dale Williams with her. Brother David Williams was off to the Air Force, and brother Mark Williams had been kicked out of the house a couple of years earlier and was now in the Army. My oldest brother Jeff Williams lived in Salmon and was working at DeMark Auto Parts. Jeff mentioned more than once that he was envious about this time I was able to spend with our dad, one-on-one. Me, I was too focused on chasing girls and doing the things that teenagers do to realize the opportunity at hand. The things I was focused on definitely did not include your dad. My father was a stern man, did not exhibit a wide range of emotions. Don't get me wrong, you knew when he was angry, sad, or happy, even though he kept those emotions close to his chest. He was quick-witted, with a dry sense of humor, filled with a library of one-liners that seemed to present themselves at just the right time. Dad was an Iwo Jima survivor from World War II. A Jap sniper bounced a bullet off his head on the 13th day of the invasion. Actually, clipped the top of the left ear and entered his helmet, causing a groove around the steel helmet. But it was enough to scare the bejeebies out of him and get a ticket off the island. That's a whole nother story. My recollection today is of the only time I ever saw my father cry. It was in the dark, so I actually only heard him. The guy who I thought was one of the toughest guys I knew was breaking down in front of me. Let me explain how we got here. My dad helped me buy my first car, $750 for a 1971 Toyota Corona 4-door. I had $75 a month payment I afforded by working at the House of Bargains, owned by Dale Baxter. I was only 15 years old. That's right, 15, and had my own car. I leveraged this to the hilt. How many 15-year-olds did you see dragging the gut in Salmon, Idaho, in the driver's seat? Yes, I was driving at night on a daylight-only license. Car was usually loaded down with my friends, to the point that any small bump would cause the tires to rub on the fenders. Up and down Main Street we went. I would ask for the change in their pockets as a token for the ride. If I recall correctly, gas prices were in the 30s to low 40 cents a gallon back then. With regards to driving illegally, why the cops never did the math is beyond me. I guess Jim Selleck, Tarkelson, and the others seemed comfortable with what we were not doing, so they left us alone. On this particular night, I recall kicking the friends out of the car so I could spend the evening with my girlfriend. I will let her name herself should she choose to. We did spend a lot of time together, and I still relish this time even today. She's a good lady, a great mother, and a grandmother. Even my wife of 35 years believes she is a special girl. On this night, I had just dropped her off at her house around 1 to 2 in the morning after practicing our night moves. Think of Bob Seger. East of town. Leaving town to the south, the highway curves to the left, right at Cemetery Lane. Well, I didn't curve with it. Being sound asleep at the wheel, the car drifted into the right borrow pit and jumped, Duke style, an access road to the farm implement company that was there. Needless to say, it woke me up. Had a few minor injuries, but was upright with the car. Ended up walking, or rather limping, a mile down the road to knock on the state cop's door at 2 in the morning to say I had just had an accident. He got up, dressed in his uniform, and we drove back to the scene. After a thorough search of the car for alcohol and other illicit sundries, none found, he issued me a ticket for driving at night, drove me to my brother Jeff's house, and wished me farewell in the mission of telling my father what had just happened. Jeff drove me up Sal Mountain to our single-wide trailer, which had no electricity or indoor plumbing, with an outhouse on the ridge about 150 feet from the front door. It was dark, very dark. Was surprised Dad wasn't on the front steps waiting for me. This made it worse, because I was going to have to go in that dark house and wake him up. Was hoping he would be waiting where he could just whoop my ass outside the house. Now Jeff simply looked at me and my swollen face and said, "Good luck." "What? You're not going in with me?" I barked back. I don't recall what his reply was, just simply remember him pulling away down the long, rutted path, through the field and out to the road to disappear into the night. I opened the front door, took a big, deep breath, and stepped in to get what I thought would be the whooping of my life. Not so. Dad quietly said from the back bedroom, "Is that you, son?" I replied with a shaking voice, "Yes, sir." The trailer we lived in was about 55 feet long, with a long hallway that ran the length. Dad's room was way in the back, and that hallway on that dark night seemed about a mile long as I carefully made my way to his room at his request. My eyes had adjusted to the darkness by the time I reached his room. I could see him sitting on the edge of the bed. I had given a brief description of what had occurred by the time I had reached him. My legs were shaking horribly, and my fear had grown to the point it was beginning to run down my face in a stream of tears. I'm sure he watched me limp down the hallway. As I stood there in front of him, I could see him studying me from head to toe. He reached up to touch my swollen cheek, which by now had just about shut my only good eye. "Is that hurting pretty bad?" he asked gently, touching my cheek. "Nah, not that bad," I replied, lying through my teeth. After a few more seconds of silence, he reached out with both arms and pulled me in for a rare and caring hug. I had never experienced this before from my dad. He hugged me for a long time, during which I could hear him sobbing. I had not ever seen or heard him cry before. This was really unsettling for me. Here's a Marine who survived being shot on Iwo Jima, having suffered through everything my 3 older brothers could throw at him, was in a moment of quiet silence, crying while hugging me in the dark of the night. Wow, I thought, what I had done was bad. To make him cry, I really felt bad, but the longer he held me, the more comfortable I felt. Dad and I didn't have a lot in those days, so going the extra mile so I could buy a car was pretty damn special. We had a house with no electricity, no phone or indoor toilet, and an inefficient fireplace for heat. What we did have was each other. We were so poor we couldn't afford electricity and had to watch a small black and white TV by candlelight. It was a 9-inch, 12-volt portable TV. Dad ran an electrical cord out the window to the battery in the Jeep to power it. He parked the Jeep facing downhill so we could compression start it had we watched the TV too long and the battery went dead. Sorry, I digress. Morning arrived, and so did the realization that I had been in a car accident. Every bone and muscle seemed to hurt. Dad was back to himself and making the most of driving home the realization of the accident. I'm sure he knew how bad I hurt. I'm also sure he purposely leveraged it by making me chop wood and do some other painful chores before the sun had risen on our side of the mountain. He asked little about what happened or even how. He knew I hadn't been drinking. We made arrangement to have the car towed to the trailer to sit outside as a reminder each and every day of what I had put my dad through. All being said, this incident helped me learn one special truth. Tough guys don't cry is a myth. Thanks for listening, and enjoy your Sunday and a great Memorial Day weekend. And a special thanks to Sherm Williams for this great story. Tough guys don't cry. Thanks for listening. Growing up in Idaho, the good old days.